Welcome to Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine. Today's musical selection will be Fly Me to the Moon. I hope you enjoy it. Fly me to the moon and let me play amongst the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. Now you are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fly me to the moon and let me play amongst the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. And fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. 'Cause you are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, 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 I love you.
Oh, why have I always associated this song with like some Frank Sinatra stuff? Or is it like Frank Sinatra and you just put your flavor on it? Is that what the Minister of Flavor Musical Vibes does?
A little bit.
Thank you, Lynette. Oh my God, that
welcome.
was so beautiful. Woohoo! What's good, family? I am Alexis Roan, aka Alexis Grace, founder of Truth Me Story LLC, expanding empathy one story at a time, and your host of Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine at Vespers. Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine at Vespers is a faith and adult storytelling series. By faith, I mean exploring how God shows up in our lives or is perceived absent. And we do that exploration in the form of adult storytelling. And by adult storytelling, I mean story told to adults, for adults, by adults, and for people with a developed adult context. 7-year-olds have a story time, and now so do adults. You're welcome. Listen, I am so excited about the breath in my body. I'm always excited about my guest, but I am especially grateful for all of the ways, all of the times in which I did not want the breath in my body. I just felt like life is so hard and people are so mean and how do I, on and on. And I could not imagine during those times that I would feel as good as I do and be gifted to know some of the most amazing people that I do. I had a series of phone calls this week that were extremely pleasant with people who are doing amazing things. And one of those conversations was about 3 hours long. And what we talked about was Jerry curls, Izod's, designer clothes, shopping at Wieners. For those of you who grew up in Texas, you know that department store. Wranglers. We talked about it's a 3-hour goofy ass conversation about a bunch of stuff that made me happy. It is extremely interesting how many wonderful things are happening in life. And so I pray that you have been having a good week as well, and that you too are grateful for the breath in your body, which means that you get to access all of these amazing people and all of these different things. So a couple of things have happened this week I wanted to make you aware of. The first is bam. Who is that right there? What? Your girl has been named one of the 2021 Faces of Raleigh. I am so excited about that. It was featured in the Midtown Cary magazine, and it's actually it's a bi-monthly publication. So shoot, I got coverage like May and June. Like I'm like at the end of spring and the start of summer. So it just feels providential. And now it's so in the day. I remember like the photo shoot, and I was so excited to just have this whole experience. A professional photographer coming in. You know, one of the things that I was like, wait, but my arms ain't buff yet. Like I ain't done enough push-ups. Well, truth be told, I ain't done any push-ups. I walk about 5 miles a day, but I'm praying during the time. I'm not really working out. But those arms, man, I love that. That was my new Free People jumpsuit. And of course I have my statement necklace on. And like it feels like my face is like kind of like with this awkward thing or whatever. But I'm like, damn it, I'm up in there. So that is what I celebrate. So I was super excited to have that, for that to be the thing. And then I am also excited about the 20th anniversary of the release of my first book, y'all. It was this book, Premature Pleasures, a young adult novel that pulled me out of the sort of corporate ranks and put me in the realm of creative arts. But more than creative arts, it put me in the realm of, if I get to decide what I will do with my life, I choose to tell stories, and I choose to tell them in reverently irreverent spaces to people who can handle those truths. And so it has been 20 years, and on May 22nd, we are having the big celebration of that. I think I have a flyer for that one too. Hold on. Yes, there it is. The 20th anniversary celebration. It's going to be streaming here on YouTube and Facebook. And that will actually be our last Saturday gathering before we go on summer hiatus and all of that good stuff. So a lot of really good things have been happening, and I'm super excited. And I pray that all has been well with you too this week. I also have a couple of storytelling workshops that are coming up, and I'll plug those later on in our time together. And you can also get me privately, just FYI, for anyone who was like, but Lex, I don't want to be with people. I just feel so privately about. I was like, shit, I got you. Whatever it is that you need, I got you. And that costs more, but it's most definitely worth it. It's worth more than what you pay, but I'm committed to, just showing up and being very careful to not hog the mic. It's like, listen, I can only tell so many stories, but I am very careful about the kinds of stories that I both tell and the kinds of stories that I curate. I like grown people stories. And even when I was writing Premature Pleasures, I got my hand slapped because they were like, oh my God, like you can't be telling them kids the truth. I'm like, damn it, if you got HBO in your house, your kids are getting the truth. If you send your kids to school outside those, they're getting the truth. So I wanted to shape the truth in a way that has meaningful conversations. And so I have been reviewing a lot of the videos, and you're going to see those commemorative videos on May 22nd. Treat May 22nd as like for those of you who are part of like church culture, like when the pastor has like a special service, and they're going to have a guest speaker and all of that, and they don't want they don't want their guest speaker to come in and be embarrassed because it's 3 people in the pews. Same. Bring a friend. Show up, bring a friend to the virtual celebration. It's going to be worth it. I'm looking forward to rededicating myself actually to the hard things. There are a lot of ways that when we are clear about our talents and we're clear about our calling, there are a lot of folks that'll try to pull us in different ways and try to get us to not see what we see, not know what we know, and not, desire what we desire. They're like, no, you want to do it this way, you want to do it that way. And so I am looking forward to May 22nd because I will get to once again devote myself, rededicate myself to the heart. Call it the fishing in the deeper waters. If I wanted to fish from the shore, minnows are cute. They're not real tasty, and I don't think they're gonna provide a ton of meat on them bones. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can catch the minnows if you fishing from the shore. I chose a long time ago to go out into the deep. And so I am grateful that you are traveling with me in that space. So woohoo! Have your life vest on. We good. We're sailing along. It's all, everything is gonna be really good. So this weekend is Mother's Day. And of course, I am grateful for one Emma Means. Mama, if you in the virtual pew, please say hey to the people. She was acting up as usual. Y'all have no idea. There are people who are like, you and your mom need to do a podcast, or y'all need to, she needs to write a book or do something. I'm like, I don't think y'all understand that her intentions and everything that she shares is supposed to just be between the two of us. And the majority of it is like, some of it is like really, Mama, it's like, I can't tell people this, that you said this. And there should be some mystery between the two of us. Like, I think that was a text that I sent her this morning when she just put something crazy out there. I was like, let there be mystery between me and thee. That's exactly what I said. And then she put the laugh out loud emoji. And, but right before I ever post anything, I was like, I'm going to put this on Facebook, right? She's like, so? They're going to be talking about your mama. Know how that used to be like the thing that would like cause you to get your total hands dirty? Like if somebody say something about your mom, like, oh, you're taking off earrings. Like, what you say about my mama? What you say about my mama? So she was like, yeah, it's going to make you look crazy if you out there putting this stuff out there. They're going to be talking about your mama. And they were right. But fortunately, she is so cool. She's so wonderful that when they talk about her, they have a wonderful word. They have a good word. I got a good mama. And I appreciate her. I appreciate all of the mothers. Shauna Mead, she was our storyteller, our featured storyteller last week. She talked about how, we don't all the time know what to do with kids. Like mothers don't know how to do this. Like you don't get manuals. And so you try some stuff, and if it works, you take notes. If it don't, you scratch it out. And I'm like, okay, let me try something else. She had me cracking up laughing. I was thinking about her story all week in preparation for Mother's Day. I love that she makes us laugh when she talks about the whole concept of motherhood. All of her stories, that we're all the time rolling in the virtual pews when she's sharing. But it's also a very difficult role. So I don't want to undermine the importance of the roles of mothers and how you are so committed and you recognize that this is one of those jobs in which you cannot fail. And you do your absolute best. And one of the big roles that mothers play is that of the mama bear. You don't ever want to come into a mama bear. Like when she's protecting them cubs, whatever it is that happens, if you come for them cubs, you fucked around and found out. Like like what we gonna do? Like you shouldn't have been messing with them cubs, and then you wouldn't see mama bear. I remember a very specific situation. Now, let me just go ahead and just say up front that if I had this to do all over again, I'd still do that bullshit the exact same way. And this is why. I respect mama bears, but I was hosting a panel for an organization that clearly did not respect mama bear. And, unfortunately, it was a male who didn't recognize this. It was 2005. I was moderating a panel that was sponsored by Planned Parenthood. They were hosting an event for, it was called comprehensive sex education versus abstinence-based education. And they invited both groups, those who advocated for comprehensive sex education and the abstinence-based education group, packed to capacity. And it was like we were evenly, there was an even split even on the panel, for those who were talking about it, including a teen minister, a young minister at the time, who was kind of representing the voice of teens. And then you had the abstinence-based educator, and then you had the comprehensive sex-based education. Comprehensive sex education person actually worked for Planned Parenthood. When he introduced himself, he talked about being with them for 17 years. He talked about having a son who was a musician in, I think he was in Vegas. And so, he's a parent, and he has been a part of this comprehensive sex education conversation for a lot of years now. The person who was part of the abstinence base, she had probably been a part of that team for about 8 years or so, but the whole team was like extremely competent. And then the teenager who was on the panel, he was 17 at the time, and he had his first sexual, he was a teen minister who had had his first sexual experience at the time. So he could speak, to a lot of different contexts. So I am responsible for asking questions to the panel. They all had the questions up front. We're keeping it balanced. There's this crowd, there's standing room only in the audience. And, we're going back and forth, and the information is really good and the flow is really nice. The folks that were abstinence-based educators, let me just go ahead and say that some of them, they chose that route because George W. Bush was president at the time. That was his Christian agenda. And so he put money, towards his values. So a lot of folks in there were like, okay, fuck it, this is where the money is. And so let me just go ahead and do it that way. So I don't know that they wholeheartedly, embraced that particular deal, but, they followed the money, and, and there you have it. So we get to the Q&A. It's been a balanced panel. People have had their say. The audience has been respectful. They've been listening, and now it is their time. So there's a person who is out in the audience, and they are holding the mic and, letting, each person ask their question, and they're going on, and everything is good. And then a 19-year-old college, I think she was a sophomore, she stands up and she begins to talk about how she has chosen to wait for sex until she gets married, that she has also convinced her friends to do the same, and that they are happy because there are some things that they just don't have to, fool with, because they're abstinent. They're not worried about, why is my period late? It's some stuff that they just like, that's just not a part of their experience, because they have chosen to be celibate. They have chosen to, quote, give themselves, to their husband on their wedding night. They're expecting this whole big, to do. She's made that choice. And so, like everyone else who was on the mic, she was given room to simply articulate where she was. And so when she said that is why she supports abstinence-based sex education, it is because of all of the things that you avoid, and that's the choice that she is living, and she's happy with that choice, and she's really excited. I'm like, okay, the audience, applauds. And then we are about to go on to the next person. And then I hear behind me one of the panel members. I turn around, and it's the guy from Planned Parenthood, the guy who's worked 20 years in comprehensive sex education. And he says, I've got to tell you that I have, that whole speech that you just gave, that is play by play what the conservative, Christian agenda is positing as the right way to go. And then he was like, oh, bravo on getting all of the talking points in there. Now I'm looking at him and I'm like, where the hell is he going with this? And then all of a sudden there is a commotion. There is a woman who stands up, and she is like, and she's not on the mic, but she is yelling. And she says, she is speaking from my heart, from her heart. That is the truth of what she feels. And then I look at the young woman, and she is bawling uncontrollably. at what this man has just said. And I realize that the person who has stood up is the mama bear. And the woman who is embracing her is the auntie. It's her auntie who is comforting her. And then while her auntie has one arm wrapped around her, she's also going off on the guy. And she's like, they're just going left and right or whatever. Now, I'm the moderator. And from the back, the Planned Parenthood VP, she waving and she's trying to get my attention. I'm like, shit, Mama Bear's having her say. You see, I understood that when she was representing her position, it didn't matter what I believe. Wasn't nobody asking me. We were asking her, what do you believe in this conversation? Your voice is legitimate. What you have to say is a part of this conversation. It should go on record. So they sitting there trying to wave me off the mouth, trying to get me to, oh, shit, I'm gonna let Mama Bear have her whole say. And when she was done, that's when we called on the next person. Now, mind you, with all of the ways that the conversation had been so sane and so reasonable, the person who jacked it up was a man who decided that a young woman's choice, her choice words, her choice for the way she was living, was something that he just couldn't co-sign. He just felt like she's spouting these different agendas. Now, he's had about a good, hour or so to get his talking points out. But the minute she represents herself, he has a problem with it. And I'm like, okay, I don't have to say anything to him. I'm going to handle that ass. She took care of that ass. And I was like, okay, next. And then we continued on. But of course, by then, the whole conversation has been hijacked. And so they sent a note up for me to give room for the vice president to come and to try to clean up what was done. But when the last question had been asked, and the last person asked the question, and the panelists addressed it, I said, thank you, everyone, for coming. Lunch will be served in the next room. And they all got up and they left. Here's what I was not willing to do. I was not willing to let them try to clean up what they should have known not to do. If you put this dude on the mic and he's been there this long, then whatever comes from him not knowing any better, that's on him. That's on him. Mama Bear handled that ass and everything was done. And of course, at the lunch, that's all anyone could talk about. So we get back from lunch. The VP then gets on the mic and she's trying to clear it up. But there's really nothing to clear up with the audience. The thing that she needed to clear up was with the fuckboy who tried to silence a young woman and her choice. And I'm like, okay, I got nothing for you here. Mama Bear took care of that ass. When it was done, when the panel was over, before lunch, he did go up to the girl to apologize for his comments, to let her know that he really regretted what he said. He apologized to her mother. And, but by then, the damage was already done. Gotta love Mama Bears. Everyone is not doing it the same way, but everyone is doing it the absolute best way that they can do. And it is for that reason that we celebrate you on this weekend, all of our mamas and our mama bears. But they do it differently. And each situation calls for mamas to react, again, without a manual, but just according to their gut instinct about what they think is going to be the right thing to teach their child, to lead them into a productive life. And that is the filter that I want you to have as you listen to our featured storyteller. She is a storyteller by profession. She's a features reporter for the Arizona Republic, an amazing human person. She has hella flavor, and I am so excited to have her tell this story. I don't want to give anything away. I want us to save the banter and some of our more interesting, observations about her, and specifically the story after she shares it. So with that, please welcome Miss Karina Bland as she dresses her truth and story.
I got into my first and only fist fight when I was 12 years old. I was a sixth grader at MacArthur Middle School in Fort Meade, Maryland. And honestly, I was probably a very unlikely participant in a violent confrontation. I babysat and did gymnastics. I read Tiger Beat magazine and listened to Helen Reddy and Sister Sledge and Captain and Tennille. I watched the Brady Bunch. It was gymnastics that put me on crutches. I did a dismount from the balance beam that landed badly, and I went down grabbing both of my ankles. My friend Stephanie's dad dropped me off at home, and I hobbled up the driveway and into the house and found my parents, who were in the family room watching TV. I told them what had happened. And you have to understand that my mom had two solutions to every problem. The first was to sit on the toilet. The second was a good night's sleep. So I hobbled up the stairs and took a bath and crawled into bed. But the next morning when I woke up and I threw back my covers, my ankles were black. And I yelled for my mom to come here. And my dad yelled back and said, "If you want your mom, you come and find her." So I rolled out of bed and I literally crawled down the hallway to the kitchen. And then honestly, my parents did like spring into action. My mom helped me get dressed and my dad carried me to the car. And it turned out that my ankles weren't broken, but they were really badly sprained, one worse than the other. And I was fitted with these half casts and then wrapped from toe to heel. And they sent me home on crutches. Now, at school, my teachers would let me leave the classroom a few minutes early so that I would have a chance to make my way through the crowded hallways to get to my next class on time. My friends would come behind me and bring my books. Now, this middle school was just outside of Baltimore, so it had a really diverse student population. Kids came from surrounding neighborhoods and from the nearby military base. My dad was a Marine. And like any school, this school had a hierarchy. The older you were, the more power you wielded. As a sixth grader, I was on the bottom of the rung. There was one day that came and I had kind of funked my way on my crutches up the stairs and down a hallway. And at the end of the hallway, I spotted these three girls, seventh graders. And they were seventh graders that I normally avoided because they wore like the cap sleeve t-shirts and they all had the same corduroy Levi's on in different colors. But the black plastic combs in their back pocket were all identical. The tallest girl had the world's most perfect afro, and the other two girls wore braids with beads on the end. They were popular, and they were undeniably cool. They were also really mean. They'd knock your books out of your hands on your way to class. They'd cut in front of you in the lunch line, and they would critique loudly your physical appearance and whatever outfit you were wearing. I had had a few run-ins with them before. The tallest girl had pulled on the loop of my painter's pants and sent me stumbling on the stairs. Another time she had shoved me out of the way in the girls' bathroom. So I froze, hoping that they wouldn't notice me. They did, of course. "Look at the fat girl on crutches," I groaned. One of the girls took my crutches from me. The other two took me by the arms, and they tried to shove me into an empty locker. I could hear them laughing. They couldn't get me all the way in because of the casts on my feet. I waited, and then I spat out, "Oh yeah? If I'm so fat, how come I fit in here?" But to be honest, I didn't really say that until they had left. And then Jackie and Stephanie were there, and they tugged me out and helped me up. Tears were streaming down my eyes, down my face, and not because I was hurt, but because I was just so mad. Jackie handed me my crutches, and then she hugged me, and she said, "What can you do? There's three of them." Well, there were three of us. Stephanie was a tall Black girl who did gymnastics with me. Her fingernails were perfectly manicured all the time, but she didn't have a mean bone in her body. Jackie was short, with blonde hair cut into that Dorothy Hamill haircut, and she had orthodontic headwear. There was no way we could take them in a fight. For the next month or so, I put up with those mean girls following me in the hallway and calling me names. Fat girl. It's not really one of those nicknames that you want to stick. By the time my ankles had healed and the cast had come off, I knew what I wanted to do. On a Saturday afternoon, I set out with Stephanie and Jackie. We went first to the home of the tallest girl. I knocked on the door. The girl answered it, took one look at us, and slammed the door. I knocked again. This time, her mom answered. She was tall like her daughter, and she crossed her arms over her chest. Her daughter peeked out behind her and stuck out her tongue. And she said to me, her mom said to me, "What do you want?" I said, "I'm here to beat up your daughter." She asked me why, and I told her. And I saw her eyes go to my legs, which were all shriveled up, and even the skin was peeling off my shins still. She turned to her daughter and she asked, "Is she telling the truth?" And the girl nodded. Yes. I wouldn't have lied to her either. So the mom turned back to me and she said, "Okay, but just you, not your friends." She pushed her daughter out the door. Now, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. The girl looked at her mom in disbelief and then looked at me. She was scared. And in that moment, I had a choice to make. I could feel my friends back up on either side. I could hit her or not. I had to think, like, was it enough that her mom knew what she had done? Her mom had sided with me, a verification that I had been wronged. I hadn't even told my mom. Because you see, back then, that's not how kids handled things. We didn't tell our teachers or our parents. We settled our grievances kid to kid. Now, there were rules. You didn't pick on someone smaller than you, and you didn't hit below the belt. You gave a kid time to hand his glasses to someone else. There was no biting. And when some kid called uncle, it was over. In that moment, I decided. I punched her in the face. And she went down, crumpled to the ground. One punch, that's all it took. It's funny because when I tell this story, people are typically pretty horrified. It's completely out of character for me. And people often expect that I regret that punch. I'm not sure that I do. It's not how kids handle things now. Now, if a kid is being bullied, they try and talk it out. And if they can't talk it out, then they ask an adult for help. When my son was kicked in the stomach in the 4th grade, below the belt, it involved a trip to the nurse's office and phone calls home to parents, a meeting with the teacher, counseling for the kicker, and an apology to the kickee. But honestly, part of me wished that my son had got a chance to kick that kid in the nuts. That way, there was no way he would ever do it again. It's funny, my son was a teenager by the time I told him the story of my first fight. And he laughed, but even he chided me and said, "Mom, couldn't you just let it go? It had been like a month." And I suppose that I could have. That day when I was 12 and my fist smarting from that one punch, I didn't go to the houses of the next 2 girls. We were square. It had been enough. I didn't boast about it, but it seemed like everyone knew at school. The girls and her friends didn't mess with me after that. Now, we never became friends, but they would say hi to me in the hallways, and I would always say hi back. When I decided to punch that girl, it was a bigger decision than whether to just hit her or not. I decided in that instant who I was going to be, not a victim, for sure. For me, in that moment, at that time, it was the right choice. It could have caused more trouble. I realize that now as an adult. I never had another fight. I've never advocated violence as a way to settle conflict. When my son was in the 6th grade and another boy was bullying one of his friends, he loudly told the kid to knock it off. And other kids at lunch in the courtyard that day came and stood behind him. They took his side. You know, there are times when you have to stand up for yourself, when you have to call out a bully and take a stance. Maybe not with a shove or a punch to the face, maybe with words like my kid did. But when you decide who you are and who you are going to be. And I think that girl's mom, she knew that.
That's what I'm talking about. Right there. See, Karina, I love this story from the first time I heard it. Like, this.
Yes.
You decide who you're going to be. And you said that what you weren't going to be was a victim.
Yeah.
That's all I'm talking about. And it was so interesting listening to the story all over again, getting mad at everything that happened. But then I think I would have been mad at you if you wouldn't have punched that girl. I'm like, look, you got an easy shot in here. And we still I think I would have been mad, Karina.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
And it's funny because I did think about it because it would have been easier. It would have been easier to walk away. And part of me wanted to do that. But I looked at her mom standing behind her daughter, and she still, had her arms crossed across her chest. But I think her mom wanted me to punch her. I think she really did. And I have to say, it felt good. I don't know what I would have done if she hadn't gone down after one punch. I'd never had a fight before. Mm-hmm. But she went down, and I think that's what the mom wanted to happen. I think it's what she wanted to happen.
I think what she wanted was for her daughter not to fucking stuff anybody else in a locker again. Like, there's some shit you just don't do. Yeah. Like, I think that, it's one thing if you want to, and I hate this. I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I don't like when mean people, because boys do it too, make fun of like what you're wearing. Yeah. I think that it's mean. And it promotes all of the wrong values. Like, somehow you have to wear this in order to be, a person of like whatever, or to not get picked. Yeah. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I get it. And I know that kind of thing happens. But they crossed the line, and it was unacceptable. So even when you talked about the difference between advocating violence versus deciding not to be a victim, to me, advocating violence is someone who says, I, feel like everything should be handled with a punch to the face. And that's not what you're doing. I mean, that wasn't it. But I think deciding not to be a victim is everything. When I ran this guy over, because he jumped on my windshield and punched my windshield like at 2:00 in the morning, and like he busted the windshield. And I was like, okay, I can sit here and be a victim, because like he was only a few punches away from having his fist completely through the windshield and then into my face. So I could sit there in the car and be a victim, or I could run his punk ass over. I chose the latter. And I said the same thing that you said. I'm not going to be a victim tonight. Mm-hmm. And even when I went around the corner to the police station, after they got all of the details and they did the report, the officer who was taking my report, he lifted his hand and he gave me a high five. He was like, now that's what I'm talking about. Like, shit, you ain't doing no murder reports. You ain't doing nobody, like this. And the guy, he left. He wasn't in the scene by the time they went searching for him. Yeah. So he lived. But yeah, it's like, I'm not going to be a victim tonight. Okay, let's go to the virtual pews. Hey, Alexandra, hey, Villa, she says, amazing story, Karina. Yes, it was. Okay, and then they're greeting everyone. And Dr. Lester, hey, Dr. Lester, he's like, very nice, Karina. Thank you for
Dr. Lester, huh?
Yes. And so it's like, said, thank you for the lesson. Yes, everybody's getting their Getting it. So Jerty says, that's amazing. The mother's action surprised me. You know what? And thank you for saying that, Jerty. I think that for my mom, she was one of those ones who did not advocate violence. Like she would have been like, Lex, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why a lot of times I ain't telling nothing. I'm like, shit, I don't like her routine. I don't like how she navigate the world. She want to be all at peace. So I was like, I want to, like, if you kick my leg, I'm gonna cut your throat just so you don't ever kick nobody's leg again. But Mama's not like me. She's a good person. Hey, Mama, I love you. Dr. Lester says, I don't know if I had a first fist fight. I certainly had a verbal fight. Now that's all of us. Like, we have to be gifted with words, because even, Karina, you said it could have gone, like, in different contexts, in different situations, it could have been bad.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too, I think, that we're teaching our kids is how to use their words.
Right.
And how to respond to it differently. Because like I said, and I think that situation could have gone either way, and it would have, because I know, that girl got in more trouble after I left.
Exactly.
That she did.
Right.
And it's like, well, maybe that could have worked, but maybe it wouldn't have. Like, maybe it wouldn't have been enough. And I think an actual fist in your face was, and I think her mom thought this was that would have kept her from doing it ever again.
Exactly.
Not just to me, but to anyone.
To anyone, exactly. I can show you better than I can tell you, because even after they stuffed you in the locker, you said that the mean-spiritedness, it continued. So they were going to continue to do that, but then she got that punch. Everybody was good. They were like, hey, Karina, you look cute today. I bet they didn't call you fat or talk about your clothes anymore.
No,
either.
never again. Never again. But that mom had something to do with that.
Okay, and perhaps, but again, like, I feel like it all goes together. Like, because had you not showed up at that house, her mom never would have known. And it's like, it's like, I don't know. But even in that, when do we ever know? Like, why do we treat life and all of these experiences as if somehow we know how it's going to work out? I mean, I think that's the interesting thing about life. It's we don't know. There are no manuals for the foolproof way of handling these situations. But you make a decision. I'm not going to be a victim today. We're going to go with that. Dr. Lester says, sounds like your car story about not being a victim. Exactly, Dr. Lester. Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. Exactly. Okay, we're getting all our, hey, Cindy. Okay, everybody's getting their, Dr. Lamb is talking about I ran his ass over. My mama hates when I say that. She wants me to say I ran his butt over, but I didn't run his butt over. I ran his ass over. So they love that story. Dr. Lester says, interesting that this story resonates with the screams about violence in the form of looting as a response to murdering unarmed Black folks. Exactly. There is something about language and about the ways that the person at the mic gets to frame it so that it becomes the reality. Language is without a doubt powerful. Yes. Yeah. And Dr. Lester says, he says, even going to her house and speaking to her mom, bold steps, Karina. Co-sign.
And her mom was scary. So that it did take some 12-year-old nerve.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But one of the things that the very first time I told this was in a storytelling workshop, and Alexis was there. And so I want to bring this up just because when I first told this story and I mentioned the fact, I grew up on military bases. And so, it was a very diverse population, and you lived, you were assigned housing. So you lived next door to whoever you lived next door. There was no Black part of town, no white part of town, no, there were people, everybody was half and half. I always thought I was half and half American, half, my mother's an immigrant from New Zealand, but then I realized I'm just white. But, one of the things was that, the story really wasn't about, it wasn't really a Black and white issue. And that's what the people in that storytelling session said, because Alexis is the only one who said, because the advice to me was to tell that story without talking about race, without talking about, without that it wasn't important. But Alexis was like, no, it's important. Absolutely. Because that was the reaction of a Black mom. And maybe it would have been different coming from a white mom.
Absolutely.
And that that Black woman is the woman who verified for me and validated for me that what was happening was wrong. And so Alexis is the one that had said, this is an important issue. This is why you tell it like this. No one else thought that, which was interesting.
It was very interesting. And I also got a glimpse of what it must be like to be in newsrooms when there are no diverse voices to be able to say, okay, no, this story needs to be told in this way because it practices integrity to the cultural experience. And so that's all I was saying. I was like, listen, tell the story with integrity. And in telling the story with integrity, it's not this sort of this washed over story where it's like, oh, okay, two kids are like, one child is being bullied and, on and on, or, whatever, because they were also coming very hard against like the way you responded, like punching the girl. They're like, oh, Karina, that was horrible. And I remember saying in that meeting, I bet that bitch won't stuff nobody else in the locker. Like I was really angry, and I'm looking around at how nobody else was having that same reaction. And then I understood, oh, okay, this is how it goes. But I was also grateful that number one, I didn't get silent just because the room was silent. I'm like, I'm a part of this committee. And if we are going to talk about how to do representative storytelling, then the first thing that we don't do is silence and try to sanitize and like shit had happened. Like there is nothing obscene about race in this story. Like it to me, it paints the colors of how differently people are mothered.
Yes.
Yeah. I will never ever forget that. Okay, my mom. Hey, mama. She says, I would have secretly murdered them and made sure their bodies were never found. Okay, now you lying. No, in good words, she ain't never gonna murder nobody.
I love your mom.
Mama, tell the truth, mama. You in the virtual pews. She called this her church. Tell the truth, mama. Okay, Dr. Lester says, and why do we excuse violence in some circumstances and not in others? That is such an interesting question, which to me, I think, it speaks to advocating violence versus deciding not to be a victim. I think that both are reasonable. Okay, I don't advocate violence, and I choose to not be a victim, and I choose to not promote other people being victims.
Yeah,
like that's a reality. Good point, Dr. Lester. Dr. Lamb says, "Tell the truth." Thank you. Are you talking to my mom, Dr. Lester? I mean, Dr. Lamb. And then Dr. Lester says, "Good observation, Lex. Reminds me of Toni Morrison's short story. I don't know this one. Recidive." About readers will racialize the characters and by default make the characters white. Absolutely. That's a tragedy as well. If we just default to, okay, I'm not going to say, the color as if that has, quote, no bearing. But even when Karina and I were talking about the story beforehand at the tech rehearsal, I was like, describe the hairstyle. Like, let us know, like, kind of what their flavor was that way. Yeah. Stephanie Taylor says, great conversation. Thanks for sharing your story, Karina.
That's my Stephanie. That's Stephanie. And Stephanie, I'll tell you and Stephanie, you visited.
Stephanie in the story.
That's Stephanie in the story. So, and she visited me here at my home when she was in Scottsdale. And we talked about this story and also a story which she was not involved when I learned to smoke about that same time. And, but I think, Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, like she was like, I don't think you remembered it as much as I did. Like, I think you remember parts of it. And Jackie, the other girl that was in it, I'm still in touch with her and she remembers it. And the beauty of all of us is that I kept, as a writer, I had started writing then and kept a diary, not one of those cute ones with a lock or anything, but just in a composition book. So, and I kept meaning to send the pictures of the pages to Stephanie because she said, I don't really remember that. And to me, it was so life altering that I remembered it. And I wondered if it was a difference in parenting that made me think of it. But I'll send you those pages, Stephanie, from my journal, because you're a hero. You were a hero in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, she didn't remember it. Okay. And to me, it was such a really, you know, a life altering thing, in the sense of, I think I realized in that moment that I had to stand up for myself. And I've had friends since then, like from high school, who have told me that I stepped into quite a few things, and just called people out and said, you know, this is wrong. This is rude. And I was kind of proud to hear that, because I didn't remember those incidents in particular from high school, but I think it set a course, you know, for what I was willing to do and
Yes.
to say. And like I said, different ramifications for people at different times. But Stephanie, I'll send you those pages from my composition book, because you were the bomb.
And it's so interesting that you said, and it never occurred to me that this set a trajectory for you. I just wanted this bully to not only not touch you again, but not touch anyone else. So I was good if you continue to go through life the same that you were, you know, beforehand, I was going to be okay. What I did not want is for another person to be harmed by them. And I felt like you took care of that. But I'm glad that you also recognize that you were shaped in a good and wonderful way.
Yeah.
You know, from that.
And again, thank God that it didn't involve more than one punch, because I don't know what I would have done.
But again, we never know. Dr. Leslie posted, he said, not unlike MLK comment about violence is the language of the unheard in the other America. Absolutely. Violence is the language of the unheard. I see connections here in so many ways. Yes. Great catch, Dr. Lester. And Stephanie says, yes, please do send the links. Okay. And then Mom and Dr. Lamb are like, truth, love you, Dr. Lamb. Okay. So yeah, they're doing their love fest. Okay. Karina, how do we follow you on social media?
On Facebook, Karina Bland, you can follow me, and at Karina Bland on Twitter. I have an Instagram account, but I don't really do much on that.
I know, because I was looking to tag you. I was like, I don't know. It's like it's about 15 different Karina Blands.
Yeah. So if you do at Ms. Karina Bland, at Ms. Karina Bland,
and Ms. Karina Bland
on Instagram.
Got it. Okay.
I'd appreciate it. And you can find me anytime on azcentral.com. Type in Karina Bland and you'll see everything I have.
All her wonderful columns. Like, she is a phenomenal storyteller. She has some very interesting things to say. The way you say it, the way that you show up. Thank you for being here with us today. Do not hang up. I'm gonna just put you backstage in the green room. So don't hang up. Awesome. Thank you. I told y'all. Listen, I am grateful for breath. Because I keep having this breath in my body, it means that I get to be in connection with people like Karina Bland. And then I get to bring her to you wonderful folks here in the virtual pews. Let me see here. There was one other comment that came in. Dr. Lester says, Lex, Morrison didn't write many short stories. I think this is the only one. We'll share if you can't find. Good comment on different paradigms of parenting. Yes. And, you know, it's so interesting, Dr. Lester. Says, thank you. Thanks for supporting my work, Lex. And listen. You are a phenomenal person. And Dr. Lester, I'm gonna save this one story by Dr. Lester for when I feature him on one of my events, but y'all will meet him soon, and you'll know how he was this fancy person, and he is this fancy person, just like on so many, like on some next level stuff. And I reached out and he was like, I'm fancy. Like he said, laugh out loud. Y'all know I'm lying on him. He is as big a fan of mine as I am of his, and I'm so grateful for him, and I'm grateful for all of you. But Dr. Lester talked about the whole the different paradigms of parenting, which is it's an interesting thing for me to observe. I come into the space not as a parent, but as someone who has been parented by a mother who is 71, and she's real quick to say, "Look, I'm 71, and there's really not a ton you can do to embarrass me." I'm just kind of get over it. I'm gonna need you to get over it too. So I keep wanting her to be better, but she just kind of is who she is. But she is amazing. Before we close out, there are 4 things that we do here, Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine. The first is we offer a public lament. Because this is Mother's Day weekend, I recognize that sometimes this is not a big celebration for everyone. It was my grandmother who years ago said, my grandma Sophie, my mom's mom, she said, when children are young, they sit on your lap. And when they are old, they sit on your heart. And I recognize that there are a lot of moms who did everything they knew to do. They took notes. They tried to do the part that worked. They scratched out the parts that didn't. And sometimes it just kind of, we don't all the time get what we are hoping for, just in the dynamics of not being able to control other people. Parents cannot control children. You also, no one can control spouses. And just relationships in that way gets to be a little wonky. And it's one thing if it's just kind of a regular weekend or whatever, you don't really have a reminder of it. But when you are bombarded with all of these messages about other people who are being celebrated, and you see all of the flowers, and you see the big hats, and you see the long lines for the dinner and the brunch reservations and all of that, you can tend to feel really left out. I was talking with a sister friend last week who she had a situation with her son, and she had not received anything like ever, and I was like, okay, I think that's just kind of boys. I was trying to no, I don't know if it's so much about him as much as just sons. They're a special group. Bless their hearts. They go out to the yard and pick flowers, and then present it, with a shoestring. I don't know, boys are interesting. But she was talking about, and how the holiday would come and go, and she wouldn't say anything, she wouldn't do anything. But one day she was in a McDonald's, and just this random stranger on my Mother's Day handed her a rose and wished her happy Mother's Day, and she broke down crying. Well, this week she sent me a picture of a card that she received from her son and her granddaughter, and it was handwritten, and it was talking about how beautiful she is and how she was a wonderful mother. And I celebrated, and I was so excited for her. But I offer a public lament for all of the ways in which mothers have shown up for children, or in which they did the best they could, and they are being judged harshly for what did not come with a manual. And this holiday can be hard. This holiday can also be difficult for those who've lost their mother. This holiday is difficult for those who don't have children. So there are a lot of folks for whom this is not a big celebration. And so I want to recognize and offer a public lament for that. But here's the prophetic hope that I offer. We've been talking a lot about how I've been just my imagination has been captured about the narrative of Jesus and the temptation narrative. And that last verse, Matthew chapter 4, verse 11, the verse says, and the devil went away, and the angels came and ministered to Jesus. I've talked with you openly about how I don't believe that devil or those angels were spirit beings. I believe that they were people. If you've ever encountered a person who was a devil, you sure enough know that the whole concept of devil is not just a spiritual being. Devils are real, but so are angels. My prophetic hope is in the same way as my sister friend was handed a rose, and it gave her a reason to hope and a reason to be seen. I am praying, I cast my prophetic hope that there will be other folks who will show up for us, who will let us know that I see you, you are important, you are doing amazing things in the world. God and time are synonymous. In due time, it's revealed. So be still, stand in love, pay attention, show up for others. All is well in all manner of things. So don't let this occasion take you out and put you in this really deep funk. Look for your angels, and if they don't show up, then you be an angel. Do the things that you want done for you, for others. Now, my energizing memory, of course, that is me and this beautiful person right here. That's when I lived in Arizona. I was the MC at a storytelling event, and that is Emma Means. I don't know if y'all have ever not seen Mom. I don't know what I think her YouTube picture is of my niece and nephew, but that's the two of us. I was MCing and looking all hot and fly, and she never wants to smile, and because she doesn't like her smile, or all that kind of stuff. I'm like, so there I am. I think my smile is a little fake too, because she ain't keeping it real. But that is my heart. I love her dearly, and I accept and embrace all of her madness as she does mine. Love you, Mama. So that's my energizing memory. And the fourth and final thing we offer, we talk about giving. And it's not giving of anything that you don't have. Don't ever listen to anybody who is trying to get you to give what you don't have. The responsibility for giving is to give what you have. All of us got something. Give a good word. Give a rose or carnation or flower. Give a compliment. Give a shout. Give a contract. Give a sponsorship. Give an opportunity. Give what you have. But by all means, partner with God in healing the world by showing up and being a conduit of good things, the good things that you have. Give what you have. All right. Now, before we head out, let me go back to the virtual pews. Let me see here. Last comments. Okay, Dr. Lester, love your mom and never met her. I know Dr. Lester, she is hilarious. She is a riot. Melissa says, I'm 67 next week and I'm still in touch with my last foster mom, just yesterday. Wow. Foster moms do important work, especially in nurturing you, Melissa, because you are an amazing human person. I did not know that. That is so interesting. Okay, we're gonna have to talk off level, because I'm about to put you on the stage. You know how I do, Melissa. I talked to my last foster mother just yesterday. We stayed in touch over the years. I'm 67 next week. Wow, we're gonna have to do something special for your birthday. We are spiritual beings living in a human vessel. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, no doubt. Okay, well, listen. Before I let you go, I want to make you aware of a couple of things. The first is that next week is our last featured storyteller. He is a hilarious person. I love me some Anwar Newton. He is a comedian, and he has this crazy story about a carjacking of sorts that begins this just crazy setup. It is just I don't want to give away all of the way that it happened, but how he shows up in this story gives you a sense of what it looks like for us to operate as angels as well, even to those who intend us harm. So tune in next week, 5:30, here on this YouTube channel or on Facebook. And then finally, mark your calendar for, again, May 22nd, 5:30 again. It's during our Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine at Vespers time. It's the 20th anniversary of the release of my first book that pulled me into this whole storytelling ranks, Premature Pleasures. I am very, very, very excited about this, and the special guest that will be joining me, and I want you to be with me as well. All right. Oh, let's see, Mama, you saying love me more? You talking to me, or you talking to Dr. Lester? I'm gonna need for you to love me more than most, Mama, and I'm gonna need you to put names behind these people that you're talking to. So I'm gonna show you how to do that as we're wrapping up. This is how we do, y'all. So please don't think that we're being disrespectful. I'm confident that she meant me and you, Dr. Lester. Okay, love you more, Mommy. Okay, with that, our blessing and our sending. We talk every week about love not being an option, love being a command. My prayer is that the command to love will lead you into creative solutions. I pray that you show up in the world being good to yourself and being good to others. That love is not something that you do with lip service, but that you will love in action. And I pray that you would experience the gratification of those who show gratitude for the love that you extend. But if you don't, if that gratification, if that gratitude, if that expression of, appreciation does not come immediately, do it anyway, knowing that that's just the way to be. My prayer is that you will be contagious with your love. and that as we are coming towards the end of this COVID-19 pandemic, I pray that we roll right into a love pandemic and that one never ends. Ashe, Selah, so be it. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Join us next week for Anwar and the week after for the 20th anniversary celebration of the release of Premature Pleasures. All right, blessings to you.
My funny Valentine, sweet comet Valentine,